Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about those three winner go home games that happened in the ACC, in the Big 12, as well as in the Mountain West. ACC was a little bit different, obviously, at the end of the day, but definitely did feel that way when that game was going on. But let's get into the Group of Five championships. I want to make sure I break these down because I might not get to talk about these teams quite as much as we had throughout the rest of the year, so I want to make sure I give them love while I can. And Jacksonville State just dominated Western Kentucky on Friday. Really remarkable performance from Jacksonville State here, and Rich Rodriguez, an incredible performance from him, could lead to another bigger job, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Definitely a lot of teams that are circling him, particularly a former team of his, but a lot of really fun stuff from this game. Trey Harris was the really fun stuff from this game, as well as Tyler Huff. We'll talk about him here in a second. Trey Harris, 27 carries, 201 yards, 3 touchdowns, also had 3 catches and 54 yards receiving. The dude is remarkable. Frankly, he didn't get love for the Doak Walker Award. He probably should at least be in the top 10 there. The kid is absolutely remarkable. A name to watch in the draft. Probably will go in the 4, 5, 6 area if I had to assume. Whoever gets him is getting an absolute dude that can tote the rock as many times as you possibly want. Really like this kid and definitely think he could be a diamond in the rough when we talk about the NFL draft here in a bit. But Jacksonville State, they were flying around on defense as well. 88 yards rushing for Western Kentucky in this game, 6 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and just a ton of chaos for that Western Kentucky offense. They never really could get anything going. The back-end defense was incredible for Jacksonville State throughout this game. So really remarkable stuff for Jacksonville State, for Rich Rodriguez, for that entire program. Only the second year in the FBS, and they find a way to win the Conference USA. Really incredible stuff, and shows you just how good of a job Rich Rodriguez has done over there. You had Tyler Huff. He actually did play in this game. There was a little bit of worry that he wasn't going to be able to go. He played incredible. 11 for 15, 176 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 23 carries, 167 yards, and a rushing touchdown. The kid is remarkable, and that duo between him and Trey Stewart is about as good as you're going to find in the Group of 5 level. Was an incredible game, and Jacksonville State is able to avenge that loss that they had last week to Western Kentucky, get the win, and head on with a huge Conference USA championship. For Western Kentucky, under Tyson Helton, they're moving in the right direction. There's no two ways about that. They've done an incredible job the last couple of weeks. Definitely a program that I think you're going to want to watch as we get into realignment again and all that craziness starts to probably kick back up. I think this is a program that could start to kick up the rankings just a little bit more. Really impressive program, and will be really interesting to see what their future holds around there. And then they do have JMU in a bowl game coming up. Going to be really, really fun to see those two teams on the field. Two teams that I really enjoy watching. Two quarterbacks that I really enjoy watching in Caden Velkamp and Alfonso Barnett. And then Jacksonville State, this was awesome. There's no doubt about that. Tons of uncertainty ahead. We'll see if Rich Rod takes another job. I tend to believe he will, but we'll see which job that is, and it'll be really interesting to see all of that unfold. They have a bowl game against Ohio in a couple of weeks, so definitely will be interesting to see who all is there, if Trey Stewart is playing in that game, all of that stuff that we have to worry about with bowl games now. But at the end of the day, you get your conference championship, remarkable stuff by Rich Rodriguez, and he definitely does deserve a big-time job here pretty soon. Tulane and Army. This did not go the way that I thought it was going to go. I'll be totally honest. Not that I didn't think Army didn't have a chance of winning. More just I thought Tulane was going to score more. I thought they had more athletes on the outside to make some big time plays, but Army was all over everything. They were absolutely remarkable, and Army scored on every single drive except for the ones that ended the half and the game, and then one turnover on downs on Tulane's 4. It was remarkable. It was absolutely incredible from this Army offense. I believe they were the first team ever to have no incompletions, no punt, and no penalties in a game. It was incredible to watch. Now, they only threw 4 passes, I believe. So it wasn't like they had to throw passes. But at the end of the day, really remarkable stuff. Army came out there on a mission, and Jeff Monken gets his guys ready to roll. And man, were they ready to roll in this one. The duo of Kanye Udo and Bryson Daly is as special as we have seen all year. They had 45 carries between them. Kanye Udo getting 20, Bryson Daly getting 25, 284 yards between them. Kanye Udo 158. Bryson Daly, 126. 5 touchdowns between the two. Kanye Udo, 1 touchdown. Bryson Daly, 4. It was insane efficiency. They were all over the place. Kanye Udo had that one big-time breakout run. It was remarkable to watch this Army team go to work whenever you see the triple option working at that level. the prettiest thing in football as far as I'm concerned. But this was a game that Tulane really wanted to win. There's no doubt about that. Army was able to steal it away, and they joined Oregon and Arizona State as the only teams that won their conferences in year one. Really remarkable season from the Black Knights. A lot of people tried to argue for them to be in the CFP field. I didn't fully agree with them, but I loved the fight and cannot wait to see what they can do going into 2025 and even this weekend against Army. But for Tulane, this program is going to be special. I feel very confident in that because the reality is John Summerall just said he's going to stick around. He said he's not pursuing some of those big-time jobs out there. He probably will next cycle around if I had to imagine, but they're staying around for 2024. I would not be surprised at all if this was the CFP team from the G5 next year because this is a really special team with a lot of ability to go out and get some elite transfers. They did lose their quarterback through the transfer portal, Darian Mensah, so something to watch there, but they can definitely backfill that. I promise you that. They get a bowl game against Florida, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a second, but remarkable stuff from Tulane, and they move forward just hoping that they can get that American championship next time around. And then Army. They were one of the most fun teams to watch in the country. There's no doubt about that. It was so much fun to watch. It was so incredible to see this team unfold, and it was awesome to watch Bryson Daly play football this year. Frankly, he was a guy that I was very much pushing to be more in the Heisman conversation about halfway through the year, but at the end of the day, it didn't quite happen. Really remarkable player, though. Cannot wait to see what they can do against Navy this upcoming weekend, obviously. They have a bowl game against Marshall. A lot of questions around what Jeff Monken's going to do going forward. Definitely a lot of jobs that are after that guy, and for good reason. He had this team really rolling in. Cannot wait to see what the future holds for Army, as well as Jeff Monken. And then Ohio, Miami of Ohio. Domination. Parker Navarro went to work in this one, as well as Anthony Tyus. Navarro was he 10 for 27? I don't think it was that bad. He had 302 total yards, was really, really remarkable. He had 235 through the air, 67 on the ground, 4 touchdowns, 2 apiece on the ground and passing. Anthony Tyus added 151 and a score on the ground. Really remarkable stuff from this Ohio running game. They were all over this team and definitely made life incredibly tough for Miami of Ohio. But this was one of those games that just felt like they really wanted revenge for that first matchup. They came out with their hair on fire. They gave up less than 200 yards to Miami of Ohio. Keon Mosey had 11 carries for only 28 yards, and really hard to do that to Keon Mosey. So really remarkable job from Tom Albin in Ohio. Another name to watch in the coaching circuit if you had to imagine. But really remarkable job from him. Cannot wait to see what this Ohio team can be going forward and what he can do going forward. We'll see if he gets one of those bigger jobs. We'll see if he jumps ship. But at the end of the day, they finish it off with a MAC title and they move forward to a bowl game against Jacksonville State. Like we just talked about, it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. Could be 2 interim coaches around those 2 teams at that point. But where they go from here, I think for Miami, Ohio, you came up just short. There's no doubt about that, but you won 7 straight. Chuck Martin seems to be elevating this team more and more. You got a bowl game against Colorado State coming up. You win that one, you're in really good shape. You put together an awesome season, you get 9 wins, and you definitely continue to build forward towards there in Athens, Ohio. Really, really fun team, and definitely a team that, as long as you keep Chuck Martin involved, you're going to be a really successful program in the MAC, no doubt about it. And then Ohio, excuse me. The program is definitely going to be really interesting to watch. I feel like there's some scalability here. I feel like there's an ability for this program to maybe kind of dominate the MAC for the next couple of years. It'll be interesting to watch what happens, but I feel like a lot of the NIL world that not a lot of these teams are dipping their toe into regardless, feel like Ohio can do that just a little bit more than some of these other teams. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. They do have Jacksonville State on the 20th. We'll see what happens. That's definitely going to be a really interesting thing. And then we'll see what happens with Tom Albin's future. That's going to be the big question around Ohio, and we'll see what happens there. Definitely 2 teams that I cannot wait to see what happens in 2025. Could be 2 new coaches, but we'll see what happens. But for Marshall, Louisiana, Marshall went to work. There's no doubt about that. They absolutely went to work, and Charles Huff is really not going to be extended. As crazy as that is, if you have not heard the story, it sounds like the Marshall athletic department didn't love that he was looking out at some other jobs, including Southern Miss, which seems like where he's going to end up, but obviously we'll update you when that's official. But it sounds like the administration just doesn't really want him back. They're not really pushing all that hard to get him back, and I guess he's fine with that. I guess he'll move forward, and he'll move forward with a Sun Belt title. So really remarkable stuff. Braylon Braxton is the portal hit that came out of this game. He's the quarterback for this team. he was remarkable in this game. He had 18 for 26, 193 yards, 2 scores, along with 66 more rushing. The kid is awesome. He's absolutely incredible to watch, and maybe he's following his coach to Southern Miss. Maybe he's fielding a couple other offers from some bigger schools, but he had a remarkable performance and then was right in the portal, which is kind of the reality of college football right now. And then Jordan Houston was incredible in this game as well. 117 and 1 score on the ground. Really remarkable rushing attack from Marshall in this game. And then for Louisiana, on the other side of the rushing game, nothing going. 27 carries, 57 yards given up from Marshall, and then without Ben Woolridge, they had nothing going. There was no chance this offense had a chance to get into rhythm, and it was really, really tough sledding for the vast majority of this game. But really awesome finish to Marshall's season. Obviously, some crazy stuff going on behind the scenes that will kind of put a damper on this just a little bit, but at the end of the day, you do win the Sun Belt Championship. You got to just hope you hit on the next hire, and it'll be really interesting to watch. I believe they might have someone in waiting there. We'll obviously update you on all of that as it goes through. But with Louisiana, incredible program, definitely one that I'm really interested to watch going forward in the Sun Belt, but you didn't have your starting quarterback, and it really came back to bite you in this one. For Louisiana, where they go from here, I really think this can be a great team next year. I don't know if Ben Woolridge is going to come back or if he's going to move on to another place or to the draft. I don't know. All of this craziness is very hard to get a beat on right about now, but they do have a bowl game against TCU in a couple of weeks. That's what I do know. So it'll be really interesting to see how many players are playing in that game, if Ben Woolridge is back in that game, if Keon Mosey is playing in that game. I think that's a guy to watch for the portal. So definitely a lot of questions around this team, but cannot wait to see what this program is going to be. And frankly, when I look at the Sun Belt right now, you have JMU probably going in the wrong direction. You have App State definitely going in the wrong direction. You have Louisiana definitely trending in the right direction. So came up short on Saturday, but definitely a lot to like about the Raging Cajuns going forward. And then for Marshall, remarkable for everyone involved, because the reality is all of the stuff going on around this program would be really tough to deal with. Charles Huff is out the door, probably here pretty soon. Braylon Braxton is already out the door. A lot of questions going forward for the Herd. Obviously, enjoy this moment. Definitely relish in it. But at the end of the day, a lot of different things are going to have to happen around there over the offseason. We'll see if they hit the right buttons. They do get Army in a bowl game, so that'll be a fun one to watch, especially with the run games. It'll be interesting to see what Marshall is at that point and what Army is at that point, to be totally honest. But definitely a lot of juice around that one. Huge props to Charles Huff, and now we'll see what happens with that contract negotiation. But really remarkable games in the Group of 5. Obviously won't get quite enough time to talk about these teams going forward with some lesser bowl games that they're playing in, but cannot wait to see what those programs can do going into this offseason, and we'll obviously break them down when big stuff happens throughout the next month, and we'll break down those games when they come up. But let's take our last break here, and let's talk about those bowl games. Let's talk about the big-time ones. We have about 14 for you, so we'll roll through them pretty quickly, but at the end of the day, wanted to get these ones on your radar. We'll talk about it right after this, so stick with us.